In today's episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast, we're going to continue on from a previous episode, which I'll link in the show notes so you can go and listen to that one as well. But I'm going to help you to improve your reach and grow your audience today. So this is episode number 413, which means you can find all the relevant links and show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/413. So in today's episode, I have 10 more ways that you can improve your reach. Let's dive on in. It's practical. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Something I do want to mention before we dive into today's episode is that a lot of the strategies that I'm going to share with you today are more high connection, high conversion, and work more for offline businesses. So where you might have a brick and mortar business or a clinic, or you see people in person, these may actually be more effective for you. But I also think that sometimes we discount local connections and in-person connections for our online businesses, but that can be a really quick way to fast track your results and get more sales. So don't write these all off. I want you to have a little listen to this episode today, and maybe you might find something that you want to play with in your business as well. Okay, so this is the follow-up. So we had 10 ways to improve your reach and grow your audience last time. So I'm going to start at number 11, just so that we've got all of them together, if that makes sense. So number 11, local networking. So when I first started my business, I went to as many local networking events as I could. I went to women in business events. I went to breakfast networking events. I went to half-day workshops where I could network and meet other people. I found that when I went to networking events that had speakers, so there was something to learn while I was there, I found that they were far more engaging, and actually the people there weren't just trying to thrust their business card in your face. It was actually an opportunity to learn something for my business as well as connect with other business owners. So I found that more helpful, but I think you've just got to try a bunch of them. Something that I say to people when they ask, do you think this kind of networking would be good, or should I go to this event? I always just say, go and see what it's like, because ultimately you won't know until you've been in the room. Number 12, online networking. So as someone who facilitates online networking opportunities with the Heart-Centered Virtual Business Conference and other events and programs that I run, I am a big fan of online opportunities to grow your network and actually have conversations with humans. So in the virtual conference, we actually have structured networking sessions, but even inside the group programs that I run, we'll have our calls where people are getting to know each other. There's lots of conversations happening in the chat box. And then we also do have things like the wine mixers and random events where people can just get to know each other and introduce themselves and learn about other business owners. So they can be really helpful. And I even know there are paid online networking opportunities available these days as well. So people will do like pay $11 or something, and you can go and do some structured networking with a big bunch of people online. And sometimes they're really good because they're niched down, or they're for a very specific kind of online business owner. I find those really, really interesting. And I've been to a couple. Look, as I said, with the in-person ones, not all of them are created equal. Not all of them are great, but they are worth trying out, especially if you're trying to grow your audience with some high connection leads. Number 13, dropping leaflets. Now, this might sound really wild and out there and old school, but there are a lot of businesses that would actually make far more money and be far more successful if you put the money that you are currently spending on VAs or content makers or social media managers, if you just put a tiny portion of that into printing out some little leaflets and getting them dropped around your neighborhood or doing it yourself, because the local touch, that geographical location, makes a big difference to the connection that strangers feel to you when they find out you are there. So just like going to local networking events can be really helpful, think about how little mail we actually get in our letterboxes these days. And if you were to receive a leaflet of someone who does dog training, for example, or someone who does massage therapy, or especially if you've got a physical business, but even if you deliver the service online, just doing some letterbox dropping or paying to have them incorporated into the pamphlets that are distributed locally can make a huge difference to your results. And you may even find that it's far, far more effective than some of the online strategies that you use. Number 14 is to attend events, and particularly the kinds of events that your audience would be attending, the kinds of events where people who know people in your audience would be attending. So I love to go to local events, even if it's just like a local business awards and I'm not in the running for any of the awards. I just want to go for the dinner, meet a few business people. And that can be really helpful to expand your network. And also it can be really helpful to even just know who's around and who does what. It can be very, very powerful. There is a local business magazine that is run here on the Sunshine Coast, and they'll often just run like evening events where you can go for a few drinks and they've got a guest speaker, or they've got a few drinks and there's like a product demonstration. And a lot of them are actually free to go and just meet some people and learn some things, and grow your network that way. I also do think when it comes to attending events, like not needing the event to have instant ROI means that you're far more likely to grow your network in a more meaningful way and not put pressure on that network to result in clients for you straight away. I do have a previous episode of the podcast about networking and how to network when you have an online business. So I'll be sure to link to that in the show notes of today's episode. Number 15, having a launch team. So if you are launching something specific like a podcast or a new course or a book or a YouTube channel or a new website, it could be a bunch of different things, probably not website, but something where you know people in your audience who would happily share it for you and would want to support you in getting great results for that launch. I used a launch team for my first book. I used a launch team for my coloring book. I used a launch team for conference when I first launched the Heart Centre Business Conference. And a launch team is literally just a group of people who, out of the kindness of their heart, will help you to launch your product or service. And so I've done it in a range of different ways in the past. I think the most effective way is just a messenger thread. So every time I talked to someone who I would consider a business colleague or a biz bestie or someone who might be a raving fan of mine, if I had the opportunity to ask them, I would say, hey, I'm actually going to be launching my coloring book in a few months' time. And I was just wondering, would you be interested in being on the launch team? And so people who were on the launch team, I'm just inviting them into a messenger thread, and there's absolutely no obligation for you to engage with every single thing that we're doing. But if here and there I pop in a link to a post or a thread where we're talking about something related to it, I'll share it in the messenger group. And if you have a moment to go and contribute, that would be spectacular. Or sometimes it would be having everyone all share the same post on the same day just to get it a little bit of extra reach. It's a little bit like a wolf pack, but it's generally just for one particular launch. And that really does give you some extra opportunity to get in front of new audiences. But also you can ask the launch team for feedback on certain sales posts or the sales page. Or I've even been part of a book launch team where the launch team were all invited. If they would like a free copy of the book in electronic format, they could have a free copy of the book. And if they had a chance to read it before the launch, they could do a little 1 sentence or 2 sentence review, or they might share a book review, or they'd give some feedback to the person if it was early enough in the publishing process. So there's lots of cool ways that you can create a launch team and, rally the people around you who want to see you succeed to help you in a really tangible and practical way. Number 16, you can do a press release. Now, this is particularly helpful if there is something relevant to your local community. Maybe you are a local girl who has done good and made it in the big smoke, or maybe there's something about you having achieved or accomplished something and you think maybe a press release, it may be a human interest story that they would publish in the media, or it may be that there's something about it that will be really helpful for people who are watching that particular television show or listening to a radio show. I rarely do press releases myself, but I have done them a few times, and I've been picked up by radio and television a couple of times with those press releases. Generally, I'll get a little article here and there. I can't say that it's done like raging things for my business at this point in time, and I haven't done one in probably 5 or 6 years now. But I do know that they are still a very effective strategy, especially for certain types of businesses or certain types of stories. I have also been on the news with things like Munchkin, my dog, who we rescued in Bali. That didn't do anything for my business whatsoever. That's totally fine. That's not why we did it. But there are times where it does make sense to just pop a little press release out and see if you get any bites of media who would like to cover it. Number 17, you could run an event. So I actually just had a conversation with someone last week about this. They said, you keep talking about going to networking events or going to workshops and local events to meet people, but no one runs great events here. And I was like, well, run one of your own. And now that person is actually going to do it. So that's great. Running an event can be really helpful. It puts you in the driver's seat as to what the tone and the agenda for that event is. It also allows you to be really clear about who you want to attract to that event. You also get the microphone, so you get a chance to speak at that event. So running your own event can be a really helpful way of just getting that extra traction, getting that extra reach. Inviting a biz bestie to come and take some reels and some short videos and some photos for you with their phone is really helpful as well, because it's also then great content for your socials to support that. And if you do run in-person events, don't forget to tag as many of the people who were there as possible, or tag the venue, tag the speakers. There's lots of ways that you can, in having those captured moments of the event, then use that to gain even more traction and reach online. Number 18 is improve your content. And when I say improve your content, I mean improve your content so that it's actually doing its job and you're not just using random templates or AI to generate content. You're not writing things like you're a robot who has been trapped in corporate hell for the last 25 years. Write content that actually works on your platform. So if you are creating content for YouTube, take some time to notice what gets good traction on YouTube. What do people really, look for when it comes to content on YouTube? I read something the other day that was about like the different thumbnails that you use on YouTube videos makes a significant difference to the watch rates of your YouTube videos. Now, I'm not someone who specifically focuses on YouTube, so I didn't take any notes on that or pay any attention to it of what you should do. I think words on the thumbnail and make it look really interesting, have a funny expression on your face, that kind of stuff. But ultimately, even just paying attention to the thumbnail that you use on YouTube can make a big difference. But it's the same for every platform. Instagram is an image-first platform. Is your imagery scroll stopping, or does it just look like everyone else's? Is your imagery grabbing people's attention in the right way, or does it just look like an ad? And if you are on Instagram, learn how to optimize your content for Instagram. Now, I will say, when I say optimize your content for Instagram, I do not mean follow the random non-logical advice of people who claim to be making $80,000 a month on Instagram but have no engagement on their own posts or nothing to back it up. Pay attention to what works on Instagram, not just to get reach or get comments, but what works on Instagram to grow your specific style of business and what works for you. So the most important numbers that I would be paying attention to and comparing your results with are your own results. So I collect my reach and engagement numbers for each month of the year. And then every quarter, I just look back at the last 3 to 6 months and see, has there been a trend of improvement in my reach and engagement? Or has it been on the decline? And then I also have a quick look at what were the top few posts of the last few months and what were the bottom few posts of the last few months. So I can see, are there any patterns? Are there any trends I can see about what performs better? Now on Facebook, you have a words first platform. So paying attention to those first few lines that you use in your content. Is it engaging? Is it getting people's attention? And ultimately, the content that performs the best on social media is social. It is conversational. It is human to human. So finding ways to really improve your content creation and create optimized content for your platform, very helpful. Number 19, if you use Instagram or Facebook to promote your products and services, and even if you're using it to promote freebies, what you can do is when you first release something, use a yes ladder post. Now, these are not allowed in the Heart Centre group, so please don't take this as an endorsement of doing them in the Heart Centre group. But whenever I create a new webinar, or even if I'm redoing a webinar, but I know I've made a plan, okay, my next webinar is going to be about fast tracking your audience growth, then before I've even set the webinar up, before I've even got a registration link, I'll go and do a post on my socials and say, hey, everyone, my next webinar is going to be about XYZ topic. It's going to help you to do A and B and C. Who wants the link when it's ready? And so I'll get 100 people comment on a post like that. And every single one of those comments is great engagement. So it's going to grow my reach, but also it ensures that it gets in front of most of my followers, because if my followers are really engaging with something, then I'm telling the algorithm, ooh, this person's followers really want this. This person's followers are really engaging with this. And so it can even just really help me to reach more of my warmer audience with some organic content. Then when I've got the link ready, I'll DM it to each person who's asked for it. And then I'll comment back and say, oh, I've just sent it to you on the DMs. And so what that does is it creates like that back and forth, which is really good for your reach. It allows your warmest audience to get access to it first. And they're going to, they don't want to miss out on it. So they're making sure that they're commenting on it. And also it is telling the algorithms that you have a highly engaged audience as well. So a very good strategy to use, again, sparingly, but great to give you a little boost of your reach. And then the final one that I have, number 20, is the virtuous cycle of content. Now, this one takes a little bit of explaining, but I think it's one that's worthwhile in really paying attention to and having a play with in your own business. So if you grow your mailing list from social media or through other strategies, but you want to use that mailing list to grow your audience on socials or get more reach, what you can do is actually create a virtuous cycle where when people join your mailing list and when they get your regular newsletter, you are directing them to a specific piece of content on your social media. So in my newsletters, every now and then I will include a link to a Facebook Live that I did or a post that I did about something that is causing a bit of a stir or generating some conversation. And so what that does is it sends a bunch of people from my mailing list over to my socials, and that bunch of people going over and engaging with that piece of content actually grows my reach and gets me in front of new audiences. And then those new audiences are getting more of my content. They might see something that invites them to come and join my list. And so then it gets people from social media over onto my mailing list. And then the cycle continues. So the more consistently you're directing your mailing list to your content on social media and the more consistently you are getting your social followers onto your mailing list, you can see that it's creating that virtuous cycle. It's just impacting on each other really beautifully. They are driving each other up, and it's going to help you to get more reach and get in front of more of those ideal clients. So that brings us to the end of this 10 quickfire ways for you to grow your audience and reach more people. And that is 20 now that I've delivered over the 2 podcast episodes. I would love to hear from you if you have found this helpful, if you've got any follow-up questions about any of those strategies, or if you're going to try something out. I want to know how it goes. So please do make sure that you keep me posted. Once again, if you would like to ensure that the strategies that you're using and that the content that you're sharing is actually aligned with your ideal clients, it's going to attract the right people, it's going to really speak to them, then we want to make sure we get your core messaging sorted. So be sure to go to the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/413 and grab that core messaging document, which is a free resource for you. And it also has a video training that goes with it as well. I will also link to that podcast episode that I mentioned about networking online. So if you're looking for all of those links, just go to tashcorbin.com/413. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.